Hello, my name is Contover, and this is the Current Buzz. Today we have two people from the International Institute of New England. One person is based in Lowell, that's Rogers. I may make a mistake on your name, Muyanja, right?
You got it. Yeah.
And we have Jeff Thielman. He's the president and the CEO of the International Institute of New England, and they're based in Lowell, Massachusetts. Is that where they were founded?
We were founded in Lowell, Massachusetts.
Lowell, Massachusetts, and Manchester, New Hampshire, Boston, Massachusetts.
That's right.
Is that correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Rogers with an S. It's not Roger, right? So
It is Rogers.
Rogers. Rogers is a new immigrant. He came to the United States through the lottery. And explain the lottery to people who don't know. And you're working for the International Institute, so explain the lottery, what happened or what happened to you, so people will understand that you're a legal immigrant that came through the lottery.
Okay. So each year, the United States has what they call the Diversity Visa Lottery Program,
Right.
Which is the green card program.
Right.
So through the Diversity Visa Lottery, up to 50,000 people have the opportunity to apply and move into the United States. Annually, up to 50,000. So there are specific countries that have quotas of specific numbers that they may be able to bring into the US. Uganda is fortunate to be one of those countries. So every year, different citizens from different countries apply through this program. The program is it takes approximately 2 years, and I will say 2 years because of the period it took me. I applied in 2007, but I was able to come to the United States in 2009. So I'd applied in September of 2007, but I got here in October of 2009. And in part, it's because the initial process is you apply, you wait for a year to get a response. Once they respond after a year, then they ask for additional information to do more checks.
Right.
Once that is done, then they will get back to you a year later. And that is when they get to you to confirm if you've received a visa, and if you've received a visa, where to go for your to process that visa. So because I'd applied and I'd requested to pursue my visa through Nairobi, I was notified that I had to go to Nairobi to complete the visa process.
How were you notified, and were you happy when you were notified?
Absolutely. It's extremely exciting. United States is a country most people out there are looking forward to coming to. And in part, it's because of the American dream. I think that is a point that cuts across. Somebody who lives here may not understand how important that is to somebody who doesn't live in this country.
That's true.
I was a journalist. I'd worked as a journalist for over 7 years. But still, an opportunity of coming into the United States was very important for me because however much I'd been able to succeed as a journalist in Uganda, it wasn't enough. Because of the freedom that the American people enjoy, because of the liberty and the opportunities that everyone has here, I got excited just having the opportunity to be able to make it.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how many people applied that year? Did you have a number of how many millions of people applied for
no.
50,000 visas?
I cannot tell, but most of the people within my circle applied. But just a lucky few get the opportunity to get the visa.
Right.
So I migrated to the United States in 2009. I settled in Lowell. That was October 14th, 2009. And ever since then, I've lived in Lowell. So it was quite challenging as an immigrant. When I got to Lowell, I realized that it wasn't as I perceived it. Because my initial thought was, once I get to Lowell, I'm going to be able to get into the media, practice what I'd been doing, what I'd enjoyed doing, only to realize that when I got into Lowell, the dynamics were different from what my expectations were. It was challenging because the figure of speech that I was used to wasn't the same the Americans were fond of.
More of slang in America.
I'd say different. I don't know.
Okay.
Different, because some of the words that I would use, the word selection was a little different, and that kind of took me off, and I realized, well, in the media, you have to be able to communicate, and people understand the message. It's all about communication.
Right.
And because of these few challenges, I realized, one, it was going to be complicated. However, I tried my shot. I gave it a shot. I applied to different local stations. I applied to different media stations within Boston.
Right.
I got no opportunity. I tried that for over 6 months. There was no luck. And in part, it's because even though the system is different, I wasn't aware of the institutions that exist within my community that could have been able to assist me transition.
Well, how did you find the International Institute of Lowell or New England in Lowell?
So that was so many years later.
Okay.
And that was 2016. I'd been here 7 years.
Wow, okay.
So in 2016, I was pursuing my graduate studies at the University of Massachusetts. Okay. I had the opportunity to pursue my internship, and that's when I applied to the International Institute of New England. When I got the opportunity and I got there, I realized that I was working with people who were in the same situation I was in when I'd just come to this country.
So you understand
Absolutely.
them, okay.
So standing in the office there and seeing all these people come in and ask questions kind of resonated with my experiences when I'd just come to the U.S., and that's how I realized.
Now, are you a naturalized American citizen?
Yes, I am.
Oh, you are, okay.
I am.
Let me ask Jeff a couple of questions.
Sure.
Jeff, what's the mission of the International Institute?
So our mission is to provide resettlement, education, career services, and legal services to refugees and immigrants so they can fulfill their dreams. And
Legal immigrants?
Legal services. We provide legal services. So we serve immigrants and refugees regardless of their status. Refugees have a legal status in the United States.
Explain refugees and asylee status versus just basic immigrant.
So a refugee is someone who has fled their country. They have a well-founded fear of persecution.
Right.
And the United Nations or another agency determines they cannot return home because of that fear. So think of people in Syria who have fled Syria because of the war there. They can't return to different parts of Syria. They flee to Turkey or Greece or wherever, Egypt. They try to restart their lives. They can't resettle in those countries for one reason or another. They can't find work. They can't get their kids into school. They can't restart their lives. There's not enough opportunities for them. And so they need to be resettled to a third country where they can restart their lives. That's how that's refugee resettlement. And
Asylee?
Asylee is someone who comes to the United States.
Right. The borders of the United States.
They're inside the United States on a visa usually, all sorts of different visas, and then they prove to a court in the United States that they have a well-founded fear of persecution and cannot return home again. Right. That's the difference.
And how do they prove that? I mean, documentation, newspaper articles?
Yeah, the process is different in both. It's similar. It's similar in both for refugees and asylees, but it's in different venues and different courts.
Right.
So in the United States, you have to show documentation of where you're from, where the persecution took place, what happened. You have to have witnesses. You have to have all sorts of evidence to prove your case. It's a long process to get asylum. Right. Outside of the United States, same thing. Only the United States, during that process in the United States, there are officials from the USCIS, United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, who interview you and ask you questions about what happened and why it happened and where it happened. Same thing.
They have statistics of what happened in specific times.
They have all sorts of data. Yep.
Right.
USCIS agents have data on in their database of where there was violence, what occurred, very specific data on what occurred at specific times in specific cities. So refugees go through that same process, but outside of the United States.
Right.
They're interviewed by USCIS officers on what they call circuit rides, but they're also interviewed by representatives of U.S. security forces, UN security forces, anti-terrorism forces. So they go through all sorts of security checks before they come to the United States.
Yeah. So, I mean, this has been done in memorial for years and years and years, these security checks. It's not something new that...
No, but the Refugee Resettlement Act was passed in 1980. It was an act of Congress negotiated by President Carter and Senator Kennedy. and signed by Carter that year. And so since 1980, under the Refugee Act of 1980, about 3.1, maybe a little more than 3.1 million refugees have come to the United States. They come to the United States, they have legal status as a refugee. Then after a year in the United States, they can get a green card. After 5 years, they can get a visa. And
they can get a visa?
They can get, I'm sorry, they can become a citizen.
Naturalized citizen.
They become a naturalized citizen of the country. And so they go through this whole process before they come to the United States. Then they're in our system. And it's worked beautifully. It's been a wonderful system that's brought wonderful people to the United States who have contributed mightily to the country and added quite a bit of value. The President of the United States, under the law, sets the number of refugees who can come into the country. President Obama set it about 100. We had about 85,000 refugees coming in the last couple of years. Obama's presidency. Under this president, the number of refugees admitted has been diminished substantially. He set the limit in his first full year as president at 45,000 refugees, but only about 20,000 have come in.
I see.
So, and the great irony of it is that we have a low unemployment rate in this country. We need workers. The economy can't grow without more workers.
Yeah, good
And
point.
these refugees want to come in and work.
Right.
So it's not a good humanitarian policy, and it's lousy economics.
Like Rogers, he spoke English prior to coming here, right?
That is right.
Do most of them speak English, or do you
Oh,
have
it varies.
lessons? It varies.
Yeah,
Do you
so-
have lessons at the Institute?
Yeah, so
for them to
people have all sorts of language backgrounds. So, people come with all sorts of language levels, English or no English. And so when a refugee comes to one of our sites, Lowell, Manchester, or Boston, they are greeted at the airport by our staff. They're placed in housing that we find for them.
Okay.
They come to our cultural orientation classes. They take English classes, and then we help them to find jobs and acclimate as quickly as possible to this country. We enroll them in public benefits. We enroll them in medical plans. We take them to their first medical appointments, to a couple of different medical appointments, and then we're gradually helping them integrate and hopefully thrive in this area.
Speaking of medical, were you given the medical before you came to the United States?
Yes.
Yeah.
So every immigrant that comes here, be it they come through a refugee application process or the asylee, you are required to go through medical tests. So I had the initial stage was to go to Nairobi, the International Migration Organization. That's the entity
Nairobi,
that is
Kenya.
in Nairobi, Kenya. Yes. So that is.
I just wanted for the record for people.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's
so
not
I took the initial tests there. So they give you a bulk of an envelope that you're not supposed to open, which you go with to the day of your appointment. Now, when you go for the day at the day of the appointment, present that document sealed, and then after the interview process, once you are granted a visa, they will let you know that once you enter, whichever at the point of entry you get into the United States, the first thing you're supposed to do is to check in with any medical practitioner, hand them another file, which you have, because they give you two, which you're also not supposed to open.
Oh.
So you have one for yourself that you come with, and then there is another that you leave at the embassy. So the one you come with, you present it to a medical practitioner here who does another physical and other checks. And then once that is done, they will assess if you need any more, let me say, immunizations, if you need any other
that's what I was
checks, all
going to
those
get to.
things.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so once they are able, and it is based on the records that you come in with, then they will tell you, oh, you need these extra shots, and they will go ahead and administer that.
Oh, okay. All right. That's it. My understanding is the 100th anniversary of the International Institute.
Yes.
Now, is there going to be a party or a dinner or?
Well, there's a lot going on.
Speaker.
So this is our 100th anniversary year. So we were formally, we formally began work at the YWCA on John Street in Lowell on May 1st, 1918. May 1st, 1918.
Yes.
Wow.
And so we're making our 100th anniversary year from May 1st, 2018 to December 31st, 2019. So that whole kind of year and a half period, we're celebrating our 100th anniversary. And what we're doing for our 100th is we are holding multiple celebrations. So we're having an event in Lowell. We're in the spring. We haven't quite finalized the date yet, but we will soon.
All right.
Professor Robert Ferrant of UMass Lowell is doing all sorts of research on our history and the history of immigration, which you have some.
Right.
And he and his students are going through all sorts of records, and we'll have a display of their research at the event in the spring.
Right.
We have an event every year called the Golden Door Award, where we honor a foreign-born American. This year we're honoring Raphael Reif, the president of MIT, on November 29th.
Oh, wow.
Intercontinental in Boston.
Oh, wow.
And he is from Venezuela. His parents fled the Holocaust. They settled in Venezuela, and then he came from Venezuela to the United States as a graduate student, and eventually worked his way up to become the president of MIT.
That's interesting.
So every single event we have an event called the International Women's Day event in March, and at that event we'll also be recognizing our 100th.
Okay.
So we're promoting the 100th in all of our marketing and letting people know that we've been around 100 years. We've been doing this kind of work 100 years. And the important thing to understand is the same work we did 100 years ago, we do today.
Yep.
We welcome people who come to the United States and are trying to figure out how to make it here. We teach them English. We help them navigate the healthcare system. We help them to find a job. And we help them to make friends and build community. The same thing.
I just want to say, in regards to the International Institute, they helped my grandmother and grandfather on my mother's side, and it started in 1920 when they started to help them out. And my grandfather expired at a young age in the 40, and my grandmother had 5 children, so the International Institute helped out. And I'd like to go to the 100th anniversary.
You'll be there.
All right, yeah.
We'll make sure you're on the list.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. It's important that you look at it in regards to your family might have been helped by the International Institute. That's a 90% chance they probably were if they come from Lowell, if their roots were in Lowell.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, we bump into people all the time who say to us, my grandfather was helped or my grandmother was helped. Just the same story you tell. Somehow their life was changed by the International Institute.
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So we were talking about refugees. Where do the refugees come from now in Lowell? Do you see coming through your door? Where are they from?
So refugees are still coming in from, and Jeff will add more to that. Although the numbers have been reduced by this administration, we still see a lot from Congo. We see some numbers.
Republic of Congo.
The Democratic Republic of
The
Congo.
Democratic Republic of Congo.
Yes. We see some from some parts of the Middle East, but mostly we get SIVs, who are special immigrant visa holders. Now,
SIVs, okay.
SIVs. For somebody who doesn't know who the special immigrant visa holders are, these are individuals who have been assisting, let's say, the U.S. military in those areas.
Oh, okay, right. I understand. They're interpreters.
Exactly.
So Afghanistan, and they would have been killed, or Iraq, and
Absolutely.
they would have been killed.
Yeah, because of the assistance they give to the U.S. forces. So their lives become a threatened.
Threat, yeah.
Because of that event, they are granted visas to come. So we still get some from the Asian, Southeast Asian. We have some who come on, from the Haiti, who come on the
Temporary protective status?
Exactly, temporary protected.
Yeah, I did my homework.
That's awesome. And Jeff can add more to that. So we are still getting some refugees, and we are getting people on asylee status as well, whom we are working with.
Okay.
We serve a broad range of immigrants, refugees, asylees, special interest visa holders, those are the people who are translated for U.S. troops, Cuban and Haitian entrants or parolees, also people with temporary protective status, lots of early status immigrants who have been here on a visa for a few years. So we serve a whole broad range of immigrants, and they're in our English classes, our skills training classes, they're receiving legal services from us. and they come from all over the world.
How about driving classes?
And we have driver's education classes too. Yeah, so we're teaching people how to drive, which is very important.
Yeah, very important. Right.
So very, very important.
In the United States.
Yeah, so we actually, with the course that we have, prepares them for their learner's permit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so but last year we served people from 67 different countries. People from all over the world. So if you come to our Boston site or our Manchester site or our Lowell site, you meet people from all over the world. It's fascinating.
I have a question here. The president talks about getting rid of chain migration and lottery, and you came through a lottery. You had to have a high school diploma or better, right, to come through the lottery?
Actually, to come through the lottery, you had to have high school or better.
Better, yeah, okay. High school or
but
better.
I've not actually, from the Ugandan community, I have not seen any person who has received a green card who doesn't have a degree, and that I mean a college degree.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
Okay. That's a good answer. I like that. Chain migration. Explain chain migration for somebody who might not understand.
So chain migration is it means that if you come here, by yourself,
right,
and then you start to bring your family, and then they start to bring other members of their family, and so that's chain migration. But we've all come here through chain migration. I mean,
right. More or less, yeah.
More or less. I mean, most of us have stories where somebody's great grandfather or grandfather came here by himself and then brought other members of his family.
Or jump ship and then
right, and so the Trump family brought their President Trump's in-laws became citizens of the country through chain migration.
That's right.
So it's.
That's true. That was recently in the newspaper.
Yeah. So what the White House is saying is that they want to have all immigration be based on career, on ability to work.
Well educated.
Yeah.
But is it that taking sort of the brain drain out of other countries and bringing them to the United States? Why can't we educate our children to take these jobs rather than bringing people from other countries?
Well, we do educate our children to take these jobs, but we can't fill them fast enough.
Yeah,
if you look at the economic growth in this region, biotech. 25%, a high percentage of the people that work in biotech are foreign-born. That's a big part of the growth.
What's the percentage?
25% or so.
Yeah.
That's a big part of the economic growth of this region. Technology, lots of people in technology, foreign-born. Medical professionals, lots of medical professionals, foreign-born. Boston, the city of Boston is 28% foreign-born. Lowell is about 23% foreign-born. Manchester is something like 14% foreign-born. If we don't have immigrants moving into New England, we're going to be an economic basket case. We have to have people moving into this area. Interesting, in Maine, we don't work in Maine, but I was following a discussion in Maine where the president of the Chamber of Commerce said in Maine, we need immigration. We can't grow people fast enough. We can't fill jobs, and we can't grow the economy. So, and the other thing is, we do a lot of work of preparing people in Boston, especially for jobs in the hospitality industry, hotels, and the like.
I understand.
And there's many openings in those
No
places.
kidding.
Hospitals have lots of openings right now. Can't fill them fast enough. Construction work, can't fill those jobs fast enough. Restaurant jobs, can't fill them fast enough. Lots of those jobs, lots of places have openings. And the kind of people who do that work often are new Americans who just arrive here and want to work. And so we need those folks to keep coming to this region, especially to New England. I can't speak for the rest of the country.
I remember going to a case one time, and it was a businessman in regards to fraud, and he said you can't get second-generation Americans to work in industry. They will not work. That's what he said.
Yeah,
so he had to hire immigrants or first generation.
There's all that anecdotal evidence about that. Yeah, absolutely, and there's some truth to it, I'm sure. But look, this economy requires foreign-born people to come in here and help build it. And if we didn't have it, we'd be an economic basket case.
Rogers wants to say something. We've got
I'll add something.
Less than a minute.
About chain migration. When I moved here in 2009, I had a daughter who was 2 months old. So I thought that with the hope of establishing myself,
becoming a citizen,
and settling in and getting everything ready, I'd have my daughter join me, or possibly the mother, and possibly be able to establish myself here. Now, in my culture where I come from, when you grow up, you start taking care of your parents. So now that means that I may have to wait and keep doing what I've been doing, go to Uganda every year, which is extremely expensive for anybody who works here. So there are a lot of challenges that come with what the president is suggesting. Something that